I said that the Kirby Silver Surfer was the only real Silver Surfer, and that the Moebius Silver Surfer was shit. And Benefield's a big Moebius fan, and things got out of hand. I pushed him, he pushed me. I lost my head, sir. I'm sorry.
You have to set an example even in the face of stupidity. Now, everybody that reads comic books knows that Kirby Silver Surfer is the only true Silver Surfer. Now, am I right or wrong?
Wrong answer.
We're here to preserve democracy, not to practice it.
Station gang, and welcome back to Surrounded by Shortboxes with your boy Stu from Dr. Do's fan club. The show's a spotlight of my favorite back issues and why I love them so much. And today, we are talking about one of the book's most important and integral to the Dr. Doom's fan club brand. If you've ever watched one of my videos, you have no doubt seen the frame poster of this cover that I always have hanging on my wall behind me. That's right, today we're talking about one of the strangest, boldest, and most visually divine Marvel books ever published. The collision of two of our all-time greats that takes its form as a cosmic critique of religious fanaticism and so much more, written by Mr. Excelsior himself, and all drawn by a French master of the art form in Moebius. Let's take a look at this book's history and why I love it so much.
As always, first let's set our table. Whether you're a casual or a die-hard fan of American comic books, you have no doubt heard of Stan Lee, the co-creator of Marvel's most iconic heroes, the bombastic voice of a generation of comics, and the larger-than-life showman who turned superhero storytelling into a pop culture empire.
Enough said.
By the late 1980s, Stan Lee was no longer actively writing monthly comics at Marvel. Instead, he had fully transitioned into his role as brand ambassador and figurehead for the House of Ideas, both working and living out of Los Angeles. After co-creating the Marvel Universe with countless other collaborators in the 1960s, and then shaping its voice throughout the 1970s, Stan had moved west to pursue Hollywood adaptations of Marvel properties, though few had materialized by that point in time. Creatively, he was somewhat adrift. Revered, yes, but removed from the cutting edge of comic book storytelling. The Silver Surfer remained a long-time personal favorite of Stan's, the most esoteric and tragic of his creations, and Stan had long dreamed of returning to the character in a more literary or allegorical format. So when the opportunity arose to collaborate with Moebius, a globally respected artist from outside the Marvel system, Stan seized the chance to step back into the writer's chair and do something different, a bold, standalone, cosmic fable that reflected the loftier themes in his writing, particularly where it concerned Silver Surfer. Moebius, the artist alias of Jean Giraud, is one of the most visionary and influential comic artists of the 20th century, equally known for his gritty westerns under his own name and his slick, surrealist, boundary-pushing sci-fi books under the Moebius pseudonym. His work has reshaped the comic book medium. With books like Blueberry, The Incal, and Arzak, and contributions to films like Alien and Tron, Moebius fused precision with imagination, created worlds that felt infinite, fluid, transcendent, often without a single word of dialogue. Moebius had also been living and working in LA since the mid-1980s, immersing himself in Hollywood concept art for films like Tron, The Abyss, and his partially realized Dune adaptation. Creatively restless and forever curious, he became intrigued by American superhero comics, particularly Silver Surfer, his favorite character, as he found Norrin Radd's cosmic scale and spiritual loneliness aligned with his own obsessions. Moebius had never drawn a Marvel character before and didn't work in the Marvel house style, but the idea of bringing his European sensibility to an iconic figure like the Surfer appealed to him. Parable was a chance to explore new territory for Moebius, render a superhero story as a minimalist, philosophical allegory, elegant, strange, and utterly unlike anything else Marvel was publishing at the time. We really have Jean-Marc Lavoisier, a French writer and translator, to thank for this book. He was working with both Marvel and Moebius at that time and really helped bridge the gap between European creators and the US market. So I just wanted to shout out Jean-Marc for really helping get a lot of Moebius's work published in graphic novel format at that time on Marvel's more mature / experimental publishing line, Epic Comics. So Jean introduces Moebius to Stan Lee and they hit it off, not creatively at first, but respectfully. Moebius wasn't fluent in English and Stan certainly wasn't fluent in French, but they both shared a mutual admiration for one another. Stan saw Moebius as the perfect artist to bring a new dimension to the self-reflective side of Surfer. So he dusted off a cosmic parable he'd had in mind for years. What if Galactus returned not to conquer Earth, but to let humanity destroy itself in his name? Moebius agreed, intrigued by the mythic potential of the characters and the unusual freedom Marvel offered via the Epic line, which guaranteed creators more control and ownership than the mainline Marvel books. The collaboration was unconventional. Stan wrote a full script in his usual dramatic, declarative style, really just a story, pure Marvel method here. The two communicated mostly through intermediaries and translators, and though the Marvel method was a completely new approach to the art form for Moebius, he ended up really enjoying it and embracing it in the end. The result was something that felt like neither a standard Marvel comic nor a typical Moebius book either, but somewhere in between. It's a clean, eerie, stripped down morality play about faith, about power, religious fanaticism, and free will. All right, let's dig into our story. In Silver Surfer Parable, a cosmic god descends to Earth, not with the promise of destruction, but with the offer of temptation. Galactus, the devourer of worlds, arrives in the skies over a near future Earth and declares himself a deity. Instead of conquering, though, he offers humanity the chance to follow him willingly. And here he is, all Caligula, no Caesar. As Big G encourages humanity to worship him as a god, receive his gifts, and abandon their moral agency in exchange for his divine promises. This passive approach by Galactus is a manipulation. By allowing humanity to destroy itself through fanaticism and greed, the devourer of worlds avoids breaking his vow never to consume another inhabited world, and thus our destruction becomes self-inflicted. Not long after Galactus's decree, like clockwork, civilization starts to crumble into chaos, zealotry, and tribal violence. As this madness engulfs the world, the Silver Surfer, now a wanderer and observer bound to Earth, is forced back into action. Though he once served Galactus, he now stands in firm opposition to his former master's deception. The Surfer becomes a reluctant prophet of sorts, at first urging humanity to reject its false gods, take responsibility for their fate, and embrace a higher sense of truth and self-determination. Along the way, he crosses paths with the televangelists and cult leaders and everyday people swept up into the hedonistic fervor of Big G's aura. Stan Lee uses this as a platform to explore moral courage in the face of blind faith and the mob mentality. The climax builds to a philosophical and symbolic confrontation between Galactus and the Surfer, not of fists, but of ideals. The Surfer's refusal to strike Galactus or become a false idol himself ultimately undermines the godlike being's control. Parable ends not with galactic fireworks, but with a somber return to solitude for the Surfer, and a challenge to our readers. Will we accept easy lies from powerful voices, or strive toward truth on our own terms, no matter the obstacles in our way? The story is a lean, allegorical work, elevated by Moebius's clean European line work and stark future cityscapes, and it stands as one of the most thematically ambitious Marvel comics of its time. Moebius's artwork in Parable is unlike anything else in Marvel comics of the late 80s. Clean, spacious, almost eerily calm. Where most superhero books are packed with exaggerated anatomy and speed lines, Moebius opts for poise, precision. His Silver Surfer glides like a blade of light, expressionless and elegant. Less a man and more a symbol. I love the architecture here. It's vast and sterile, and it evokes this dystopia drained of personality. A cityscape where religion, media, and commerce all kind of blend into one. It's a visual language more in tune with heavy metal than the Marvel house style. Every panel breathes. leaving space for the reader to absorb not just action but mood. There's a haunting stillness to everything, which makes these moments of violence or chaos even more jarring. When crowds riot or buildings fall, Moebius doesn't exaggerate. He simply lets it happen with quiet, documentary like detachment. That restraint enhances the book's parable like quality and makes the story feel like a timeless warning rather than a typical superhero epic. Even Galactus, usually depicted as this swirling colossus of power, here is kind of like a sleek, almost blank monolith. He's power without expression. And I love that artistic choice by him that reinforces the story's central idea. True danger isn't explosive, it's seductive. Moebius's art strips away the spectacle and forces us as the reader to focus on what these characters represent and not just what they do. Parable doesn't exist in mainline continuity, and it doesn't need to. It's timeless in that sense. It's, like I said before, a self-contained morality play, and I love how it kind of weaponizes sci-fi to critique organized religion, blind faith, and cults of personality, all through the lens of the Marvel Universe's most tortured Skyrider. Silver Surfer Parable kind of reads like a lost religious text, right? It's part Twilight Zone, part Dune, part New Testament. Surfer's chrome is coated in dust and dread. It's mythic, it's weird, it's quiet, it's beautiful. It won the 1989 Eisner for Best Finite Series, which I guess was their version of limited series at the time. And in 1990, it was followed up by Silver Surfer and the Enslavers. This one was illustrated by Keith Pollard and again scripted by Stan Lee. But without Moebius, it never reached the same cultural or artistic heights that Parable did. Parable has since been reprinted multiple times. We've gotten oversized formats that showcase Moebius's line work in all of its glory. So I definitely recommend you check it out in collected or single issue form. I love Silver Surfer Parable because it's an incredible collaboration between two true legends, and it's so dope to see how the Marvel method fared in the hands of a European creator. I love this book because Surfer feels like such a spot-on pick for Moebius's aesthetic, and not only that, but every single time he renders Galactus throughout the story, it's incredible. His sleek look and muscled physique for Big G really worked here for me in his role as blesser of the Bacchanal, as it were. But every page from Moebius feels inspired in this book, whether it's a cosmic god or a televangelist. He does incredible work throughout. It's so consistent. And he brings this sense of grace and distance that makes Earth feel alien and Surfer feel divine, but still heartbreakingly human. And Stan Lee, usually larger than life, writes with unusual restraint here, perhaps a bit more wiser later in his career. All in all, a fantastic and timeless experiment between two of our best. That's it for me this time, gang. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of this classic. As always, make sure you like and are subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss out on any more great comic book content. Stay surrounded by short boxes, my friends.
Till we meet again on Doomsday.